I've never once looked at gold as an investment. Yeah, I'm very cognizant of its appreciation, which has been, I remember when gold was $250 an ounce in early 2000s. But to me, gold is wealth. Gold is wealth that has continued to appreciate forever. I mean, go back as far as you want, you'll see that it's kept pace with the cost of living, and in many cases outperformed it. To me, that's what it is. It's wealth that if you need to use, you're darn glad you have it. And too many people focus on gold as an emergency hedge, as a catastrophe hedge, as the sky is falling hedge. Sure, I mean, I guess you could say it does that too. But to me, it's wealth outside the system that is private, that I can give to my kids if I don't need to use it. And if I do need it, I'm darn glad I have it. And in an environment where not only are we lied to about inflation and money creation, as we're told it's 3 point whatever percent now, but John Williams would say put an 8 in front of that. And so you're at 11 or 12% inflation. So they lie about that. The dollar is continuously being devalued. And in a world of over-leveraged, undercapitalized banks, in a world of inflation and dollar debasement, that's what gold is. It's wealth, and it's there when you need it. It's immediately liquid, and it's universal. So I can't think of a better explanation of why to hold it. The only caveat I would say is that when someone calls me and says, look, I'm buying a house in 8 months, should I do this? I typically say no, because there's too many variables. I would say buy a 6 month treasury right through treasurydirect.gov and remove all of that risk. But if someone says, look, I have a lot extra money, I don't know what to do with it, I want to put it somewhere safe for the future, yeah, there is no better place to put it in my mind than an asset that is continuously, since 2000, it's averaged 9.9% per year. Compounding was up almost 30% last year, and this so far this year, it's up 8 straight weeks in a row. There hasn't been a down week yet. Doesn't mean it will always do that. It just means that what gold is a vehicle to maintain your standard of living. And we can go back to, 30s with Roosevelt, go back to Roman times, and there's always those analogies, and they are true. You go back to the 70s, in 1971 with $35 gold, right when he closed the gold window, a 100-ounce, COMEX gold. Look at a 400-ounce gold bar from London in 1971 would have been $14,000, and today, with gold at $29.51, that bar is $1,180,400. Did gold go up, or did the dollar lose all of its value? And I say, in 1963, when my dad graduated college, he was making under $6,000 a year. And he said, your mother and I could live comfortably on that. Just the two of us. We were married then, he said. Well, how the hell does anyone live on $6,000 a year? Well, back then you could. Did the dollar, or did the cost of living go up, or did the dollar go down? So in essence, what this is insidious, continual inflation eroding the value of the dollar, and gold finds a way somehow to maintain your standard of living, in some cases accentuate it. So you don't buy gold to become wealthy, you buy it because it is wealth. Better than holding it in a bank these days, that's for darn sure. When you're in an IRA, I don't know what options you truly have. Anything you do is being reported to the IRS. That's what the custodian's job is to do. The only way to do that would be to start taking distributions of the metal in kind, in my mind, and get it out of the system. When you're dealing with an IRA, you are part of the system. You're in the matrix. And like I told you before, in 2009, after the great financial crisis, there was a bill that was floated all the way down to the House floor. It was rejected, but it talked about taking IRA money, if there ever was another great financial crisis, and converting it into everyone's IRAs into like a guaranteed annuity of sorts backed by treasuries to stabilize the treasury market, to stabilize the dollar. And so you're in the system. And in fact, a custodian is, if I understand this correctly, is the owner of the IRA. You are the beneficiary of all the income. So until you leave the matrix, you're part of the game. So, I think the way to do it, if I were going to if I were going to do it, I have found that new direction, and I don't get paid or have any dog in the fight. I work with all the custodians, and to me, they're the only ones that have earned my respect enough, because quite frankly, most of them suck, and suck worse than others. Some have made me so angry I've lost my mind, but they have proven to me to be the best. And I have faith and confidence in them, and you always want to choose a depository that physically segregates your metal. But remember, you have the ability to stand for delivery in your metal as a distribution or liquidation. And it's a taxable event, but in reality, that is the only way to increase your privacy and to remove counterparty risk. In the meantime, when you're in the IRA, you must choose a depository that physically segregates, not just allocates, right? Allocate is all the metal from this IRA custodian is held in this bucket. No, I want Dunnigan's bucket right here, and Andy's bucket right here, and Jim's bucket right here. It has to be your own name. It has to be physically segregated, not just allocated. And so that is the only way, but truth be told, it is a great way. It is a great way to make a bigger splash in the gold pool, but understand if you ever sense anything's about to get a little bit untoward, shall we say, the ability to stand for delivery and take possession and pay your taxes is never a bad idea in that scenario. You know, you keep enough money in the bank to pay your monthly bills, and if you need to sell gold and silver to add to your cash stash, you can do that. A glint is I talked with Jason about that today. The CEO of Glint and the founder. To me, the real utility in Glint is just what you said. You know, I mean, I got extra money and I use it for certain things, but I don't want it in the banks that are wickedly over leveraged and undercapitalized. And I think too many people have let that problem go by the wayside, and it's not resolved yet. I think there'll be more bank failures. So keeping it in an account in Zurich rather than in a bank account here in the States is not a bad idea. But look, how do you become your own annuity? How do you become your own bank? How do you do all of that? You do it by accumulating assets and like gold and silver, which then can be monetized if you need to. It's keeping it out of the system. It's not an easy thing to do, and it's rather unconventional. I am not the poster child for Finance 101, and quite frankly, neither are you. But yet, I would argue we probably both sleep well at night, and our portfolios have probably done better than most of the index funds. Certainly better than the S&P, much better, and without the counterparty risk. So, you know, you're your own bank. I'm my own bank. If you are doing that, it's important, I think, to have a good portion held in a depository to give you immediate liquidity. And you don't want to have, you know, your house filled with gold and silver, security risk, and those kinds of things. I mean, you can have some, certainly, to whatever degree that makes you feel comfortable. But our Brinks programs are a perfect vehicle for that, where, you know, I have a lot of people who have a lot of metal in Brinks, and they'll say, I need $100,000 this week. Please sell, 40 ounces of gold for me. Done. Bang. And we wire them their money. So in essence, they are their own bank. But in a world that is becoming far more complex, far more interconnected, the term you use is systemic, it becomes a challenge, but it's not a bad idea. I think that breaking free from the traditional norms of what is normal, what is conventional, is something I've never had a problem doing, and it's typically worked out well. I think it means trust your gut. And if your gut tells you get the hell out of the system, then do it. And to whatever degree that means. But in terms of liquidity, if you have the ability to keep, let's say, a certain percentage, whatever that amount means to you, in a depository where you have immediate liquidity physically segregated, like in one of our Brinks depositories, yeah, you would then have instant liquidity within just a couple of days at worst, where we can wire you your funds once Brinks moves the metal, rather than leaving it inside of a under capitalized, over leveraged banking system, where, the fractional reserve system is that if everyone runs to that bank to get their money, just a couple will get it. That's just like we're seeing on the LBMA right now. That's just like Bernie Madoff. That's just, it's a scam. And it is. And yet no one's ever done that because usually you don't see a run on the banks. But are we watching a run on the LBMA in real time? Does that maybe open people's eyes? Maybe we're not. Maybe we are. Only time will tell. But it's this type of what we're seeing certainly could be, looks like it could be, and we'll see how it all plays out. But I don't find those kind of decisions crazy. What I will tell you is that if you are one of the people who wants to do that, don't go to anyone mainstream and tell them what you're doing. They're going to lock you up. I mean, again, people would think I'm crazy for doing what I've done, and I've done it for over 20 years. And I've never missed a minute of sleep, and I've turned out just fine. Trust your gut, and in the end, you only have yourself to blame. So I think these kinds of decisions that are unconventional, even though it makes sense to you all, and the guy who said that probably is fairly well read in this type of information, instead of the people like an advisor who's well read but reading the wrong stuff, reading stuff that would tell you it's all about the Keynesian experiment, which many of us believe are coming to an end. So it's one of these deals where you're going to have to go it alone and trust your gut. Everything I've done since I was a young man, I've done alone, because the advisor would say, A, you're nuts, and B, I don't want to work with you because you're a risk to me, or, you know, I don't like that kind of deviation from protocol or from what's normal. But in my mind, it is normal, and it is normal to be your own bank and to be your own retirement account and to rely on no one but yourself. I think it's always seemed normal to me. So I would tell that guy to go ahead and do it and trust his gut. And certainly, you know, Dunnigan and I are here to help foster you to get through that. It's not as crazy as it sounds. Even thinking it sounds kind of crazy, but when I think about it, that's me. That's what I've done for a long time, and that's you. So not so crazy after all.